Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Srimad Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-vedanta Swami Prabhupada, Chapter 18, Text 63. Iti te jananam akyatam guhyad guhyatarang maya vimrishyaita dasheshena yathechasi tatha kuru. Yathechasi tatha kuru literally means do as you like. So this morning I was joking that someone could say, well, I'm a strict follower of Bhagavad-gita. I follow the instruction of Krishna to do what you like. However, there's a great danger in taking statements out of context. To give an example, I'll tell a little humorous, mythical story that one Muslim always used to go to the mosque regularly, but then he stopped going. And one time the local religious leader met him and said, well, why have you come to the mosque anymore? He said, well, I read in a book of instruction that one should never go to the mosque. And he said, well, show me the book. So it's a book of instruction for Muslims, and there's all so many instructions, and on one page it said, one should never go to the mosque. So then the religious leader turned over the page and it said, without first washing one's hands and legs. So Krishna does say here that do as you wish, do as you like. But he states it within the context of the whole Bhagavad-gita. The whole verse is, I'll repeat it line by line, Iti te jnanam akyatam, I have described unto you knowledge, guhyad guhyatarang maya, which means knowledge more confidential than even that which is considered confidential. In other words, the most confidential. Vimrishaitat asheshena, consider that very carefully and in detail. And then yatechasi tathaparu, according to your wish, act. So Krishna is not recommending that you judge, whatever animalistic urge comes into our id, that we just do it. Krishna says that I have instructed you, Arjuna, very carefully in very deep levels of spiritual knowledge. Now I have spoken very elaborately. Now it's your duty to consider that very carefully. And then you consider what is the best thing to do. In other words, Krishna is not giving Arjuna some kind of a dogmatic ultimatum or diktat. He doesn't say, look Arjuna, I'm God, and if you don't do what I say, I'll throw you and burn you in hell forever. But Krishna has explained to Arjuna in detail what are the interactions of the modes of material nature. What is the relationship of the jiva with Bhagavan? How the jiva is entangled in this material world. So Krishna has given this knowledge to Arjuna. Attaining knowledge is the difference between a human being and an animal. Especially attaining spiritual knowledge is that which distinguishes human beings from animals. Ahara bhaya. Got it that time? Okay. Ahara nidra bhaya maitunam cha samanyame tat pashubhya naranam. Human beings and animals both have very well developed propensities for eating, sleeping, mating and defending. So increasing the stock of, or the storehouse of human knowledge to increase our abilities to, in more and more sophisticated ways, eat, sleep, mate and defend, is not really symptomatic of advanced culture. But atato brahma jignasa, when one inquires into that which is beyond eating, sleeping, mating and defending, into the spiritual nature, that is the beginning of real human life. So to inquire into spiritual knowledge, that is the distinguishing factor which brings one actually to the human platform. And Krishna is the best person to give spiritual knowledge. Okay, let's have a little quiz here. Why is Krishna the best person to give spiritual knowledge? Would anyone like to suggest any reason? Maybe someone might think that the professor of comparative religions is better because Krishna just speaks some dogmatic Hinduism. But the professor of comparative religions can give you the whole panorama of religious outlooks. Okay, any thoughts? Why would we consider Krishna the best authority, or the best person to give spiritual knowledge? Yes, please.
Because he's the source of everything.
Because he's the source of everything. Please translate it. Well, that suggests he's also the source of spiritual knowledge. So yeah, that's a good reason. Then, anyone else?
Because he's beyond the duality of the material world.
Okay, translate that. Anything else? I know thinking is a little difficult when you're in a greenhouse on a hot day. Anyway, it'll be a lot hotter at the time of death, the internal heat, so it's good practice. Everything we do is practicing, so for that time. So some yogis, they sit in the 5 fires. They surround themselves with 4 fires and sit in the hot sun. So we're not recommending you do that. But if anyone has any more suggestions why Krishna is the best person to hear spiritual knowledge from, we'll accept that. I got one hand on the far left and one hand on the far right. So let's go to the extreme right wing first.
Because Krishna is the closest person to us. He's closer than...
Krishna is the closest person to us. Then...
You sure?
No, you can translate that. Yeah.
Krishna knows the past, present and future.
Alright, you translate that also.
Yeah.
Okay. So, alright, one more suggestion. Yes, please.
Because he has 6 opulences.
Krishna has 6 opulences in full. Okay. Everyone please turn off their cell phones because Srila Prabhupada said. Okay, well, I would say that Krishna is the best person to receive spiritual knowledge from, or to describe spiritual knowledge, because he himself is the object of all spiritual knowledge. And he is spiritual knowledge. So Krishna has described this knowledge to Arjuna. Now Arjuna is supposed to be able to make an intelligent decision. A person in knowledge is expected to act on a responsible platform. He's supposed to be capable and trustworthy. It's just like you see, if there's some accident and someone gets injured and there's just some passers by and someone may say, well, what shall we do? And they say, well, do whatever you like, kick the victim in the head or do whatever you like. Yeah, we're just postulating here that there's some accident, someone is lying in a pool of blood, groaning, and someone's there bewildered and asks the passersby, one passerby, what do you think, what should we do? And he said, well, just do whatever you like. Well, I mean, that's within the range of possibilities, if you just say, do whatever you like. So that's not a very, it's not a very good reply. I mean, there should be something specific that you should be able to do to help someone who's in difficulty. But if there happens to be a doctor there, then everyone else who's not qualified should leave the doctor to do as he likes because he knows what to do. If the doctor says, go get me some ice, I have to apply it to this. You don't ask him, well, what do you want the ice for? I don't think you should have ice. I think you should bring. Why don't you put, there's someone working with a gas burner, why don't you put that on the wound instead of ice? You don't question him because you trust that he has knowledge and he knows what is the best thing to do. So by asking this question, Krishna is not telling Arjuna to become a hippie, if you know what a hippie is. It means, or just a free thinker, or just do it, anything's okay. He's not saying that. By saying this, Krishna is telling Arjuna that I have given you this knowledge, and now it's up to you to apply that intelligently. Krishna is not speaking some theoretical philosophy. It's meant for practical application. The philosophy spoken by Krishna can be practically applied by any intelligent and enlightened human being in any circumstance. So when Krishna tells Arjuna, you do as you like, that means that Krishna expects Arjuna to have understood this philosophy and to be able to apply it practically. That just as Arjuna had trust in Krishna, that you are the right person to instruct me, Krishna trusted Arjuna to be a sincere disciple. That Arjuna, he wasn't asking Krishna whimsically, that Arjuna was very serious to understand his existential position and how to act in a way for the benefit not only of himself but for everybody else concerned. So this knowledge of Bhagavad-gita is the basis on which every enlightened human being should live his life. The decision that Arjuna had to make would seriously affect his own life and that of everybody else on the battlefield and many other, actually the whole world. So we're not as significant people as Arjuna, but everything we do affects not only ourselves but others who we are in contact with. So we have to act in a way that will be beneficial for ourselves and for others. Therefore, it is required that we act in knowledge. I remember many years ago, it was about before I joined the movement, they brought out one Back to Godhead. I saw when I joined. On the back cover, there was a picture of a young man. There was a face-to-face photo facing a baby. I can't remember exactly the wording, but it was quite, provocative.
Provocative in a sense?
Well, provocative in the sense of, if I tell you what comes next, then you'll understand. It was made to prod people into thinking that your child is going to ask you, what is the purpose of life? Will you be able to answer? Now, I don't know if children nowadays ask what is the purpose of life much, because from about the age of 3, they're given computer games to play with. But otherwise, it's a natural propensity in every human being that from a very young age, when they see the stars at night and the wind blowing and the rain falling, and they from a very young age, it's a normal thing that children, they ask about everything. Where is the wind coming from? Why is it dark at night? What are the stars? They start asking profound questions. And actually in Bhagavad-gita, Lord Krishna succinctly gives answers to all questions of import. So it's actually the duty of every human being to imbibe this knowledge and to be able to pass this on to others. In modern society, people are directionless. They have no fixed direction in life, which is another reason. We were discussing this morning how there's so many people in modern society are mentally disturbed. And one reason is, there may be many reasons for that, but one reason is that people, they don't know what they're doing in life. Their direction in, someone just sent me an email of something very common among middle-aged people in the Western world who are successful in life. They have jobs that pay a lot of money, but they get to middle age and they wonder, what the hell am I doing? Every day I'm signing this paper and pressing something in the computer. What's going on? I've got money, I've got a boat, I've got a house in the country, I've got tons of money, but I've got prestige, but what the hell am I doing with my life? It's a common syndrome. It's called, so common I can't remember the name.
Middle-age syndrome.
Middle-age syndrome, something like that. Yeah.
Middle-age crisis.
Middle-age crisis, midlife crisis, that's it, midlife crisis. Practically it's the same impulse of the young child who asks, what is this? What is that? What is this? That is the Paramatma, the Lord within the heart, prodding us to go towards spiritual life, to ask the right question. That's why we see that many people all over the world are very happy to receive Srila Prabhupada's books. One might think that in this totally materialistic age that we live in, that nobody would be in the slightest bit interested in Srila Prabhupada's books. People must be interested in things which tell them how to eat, sleep, mate and defend in various interesting, new and different and sophisticated ways. But many people, it's just the opposite. Maybe because the age is so materialistic that many people are very happy to receive Prabhupada's books because they're fed up. People realize that there's something seriously wrong with the whole direction or lack of it in human society all over the world. There are various conspiracy theories that certain people have, they're getting together and they're all sitting together and quietly conspiring to control the world without any of us knowing about it. There are also cosmic conspiracy theories that there are unknown people from unknown planets who are conspiring to control the earth or invade the earth. Personally, I'm not very much convinced by any of these conspiracy theories. You can't prove them wrong, and therefore you can't categorically say that they're not true, but at the same time, like I say, I'm not personally very much impressed by them. But it does show that people realize in whatever goofy way, in various goofy ways, that there's something seriously wrong with the world. Goofy means funky, stupid, or kind of really bizarre. Bizarre is a kind of synonym for goofy. So many people, they're actually very pleased to receive Srila Prabhupada's books because they can realize that these are not books about eating, sleeping, mating and defending. There's something completely different. And they can realize that the persons distributing the books are persons who seem to have gone beyond the general materialistic, directionless struggle that everybody else in the world is engaged in. In some of the editions of Bhagavad-gita, there's a very interesting endorsement from Thomas Merton, who was a kind of transcendental Christian theologian who gave he died in the 1970s, maybe late 60s or something. But he was a highly respected transcendentalist of sorts within the Catholic tradition, I think it was.
You mean the
he gave, they have people who give their reviews. So I'll paraphrase it because I don't have a photographic memory. So he said that if truth is what works, as someone and the pragmatists, I think it was, insist, then there must be truth in Bhagavad-gita as it is. Shall I finish the whole thing? It might be easier for you. No? Okay. Because those who follow its teachings emanate a peacefulness and a sense of satisfaction which is conspicuously absent in the average modern man. So actually it's a fact that the knowledge in these books is liberating. Liberating, yeah. It liberates one from birth, death, old age and disease. It liberates one from the grinding existence of modern life. Now you may say, well, if I buy this Bhagavad-gita, I have to go to work and provide for my family. By buying this Bhagavad-gita, am I going to win the lottery? Then I can buy a big yacht and go on just spend my life sailing around in the Black Sea. Well, the answer is obviously no. But the person who has enough money to go just holidaying all his life on the Black Sea, he is also not liberated. And a factory worker who's in Krishna consciousness is actually liberated. It's a matter of consciousness. Just like Arjuna, he was told, Yatechasi tathakuru. You act now, and you consider what to do, then you act. Act as you like. Now, had Arjuna fought without hearing Bhagavad-gita, then he would have fought as a conditioned soul. Of course, Arjuna is an eternal associate of Krishna, but we're talking theoretically here, because theoretically Arjuna was bewildered and therefore Krishna had to speak Bhagavad-gita. Now, if Arjuna was simply fighting as a duty to support his brother in the battle because his righteous claim was to attain the throne, then that would have been mundane. It would have, it would have been mundane. And even if Arjuna had left the fight and not fought because he thought, fighting isn't very good in this circumstance, that would have also been mundane. But his decision to fight after receiving knowledge from Krishna was completely transcendental. Now Arjuna, by fighting, he acted on the liberated platform. But Duryodhana was also fighting, Karna was also fighting, Shakuni was also fighting. They were doing the same thing as Arjuna, and they followed the same rules of battle that Arjuna did. But Duryodhana, Shakuni, and all of that crowd, they were on the mundane platform. Their consciousness was mundane, whereas every arrow Arjuna shot, he shot out of transcendental love for Krishna. He was on the transcendental platform. So it's a matter of consciousness. Arjuna was he acted as he did because he knew that Krishna wanted him to act in that way. Personally, Arjuna didn't want to fight. But when he understood that Krishna wanted him to fight and that Arjuna, he should act according to what Krishna wanted and not what he wanted, therefore Arjuna agreed to fight. Now Krishna is saying to Arjuna, you act according to your ichcha, according to your desire. But Arjuna has understood that Arjuna should act according to Krishna's desire. But Krishna at the same time while establishing that Arjuna should act according to Krishna's desire, he still gives Arjuna the choice whether or not to act according to Krishna's desire. So ultimately everyone has to choose to serve Krishna or to act in a way that is pleasing to Krishna or not to do so. Krishna gives everyone the choice to act, but he gives everyone the opportunity to take the knowledge by which they can learn to act in a way that will be beneficial for themselves and others and will actually make them happy. So this may all sound very theoretical. And much of the Bhagavad-gita, it sounds like very esoteric and theoretical. But in Arjuna's mind, there was no, he never considered it theoretical because he had the stark reality ahead of him of choosing whether to fight or not. Whichever way he chose, it was going to be a monumental decision. If he chose to fight, it meant that he'd have thousands of arrows being discharged against him constantly. It's easy to talk about that sitting here, but I mean, in reality, it's an extremely intense situation. Where the alternative was for him to not fight, and then he would have had thousands of insults piled on him constantly for being a coward, for neglecting his duty. So it was either way. There was a very intense situation for Arjuna, and it's actually true for every one of us. We can choose to act in a way which will very soon bring us into a situation where we are living in intense bliss, in permanent association with Krishna. On the other hand, if we don't do what Krishna says, then we have to enter the intense situation of punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. It's no joke. Do you know that? It means again and again getting born, again and again dying, again and again entering a mother's womb. This is the reality of material life. Material life is pretty rough. And then the summer comes, and everything's very nice, and everything seems very nice, and we may forget how miserable material life is due to the maya of a summer's day. So life is intense. We all have to choose. We have to choose to go to the situation of intense bliss in service of Krishna, or to go on with the intense suffering of material life. Hare Krishna. Well, it's really tough when everyone's in a sleepy mood. Has anyone ever been in India in the summer? In Vrindavan area, for instance? I mean, it's a lot hotter than here. It's, you might think it's so hot you just go to sleep, but it's too hot even to sleep. Even at night you can't sleep because it's too hot. So there's a very nice festival, the Jal Vihar they have for the deity, I was in Nathdwara once, which is extremely hot, the place of Srinathji. So Jal Vihar means water pastime. So there's a whole big room, about maybe a little smaller than this tent, and they have this small deity there, not the whole big Nathji, but the smaller deity. And there's rose water being sprayed everywhere, all over the deity, all over everyone, so everyone who goes in becomes completely wet immediately. So it's very pleasant when outside it's extremely hot. Syringes also, you can spray the Lord and spray others with rose water or coloured water, just like they have this for spraying flowers. That's also commonly used in ISKCON. It used to be in the days when we used to worry about when people fell asleep chanting japa. We used to have these sprays, spray someone. So I was just thinking we needed a few sprays here to wake everyone up. Hare Krishna! Alright, you had a question from the morning class? You were asking, there was some question in the morning class, you were going to ask something about Ashvatthama becomes the next Vyasadeva, something like that. What was the question? Yeah.
In his next life.
Not in the next life, he's still alive. What's the description in the Mahabharata of Ashvatthama as being killed? He didn't die, he's still alive. He's one of the 7 Chiranjeevis. He's going to be the next Vyas, or one of the upcoming Vyasas. When he had he was in such bad consciousness. Okay, can you translate that?
So this is the question. Why?
Yeah, when he was in such bad consciousness, how could he be predicted by Vyasadeva in the Bhagavatam to become the next Vyas, or one of the next Vyas? Sometimes we say, this devotee is not in very good consciousness. So we may say among ourselves that such and such is not in very good consciousness. But it's unlikely that he's going to be in as bad consciousness as Ashvatthama was. With Ashvatthama, he killed thousands of sleeping soldiers. Nevertheless, he is described by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam to be, in future, Ashvatthama will become Vyasadeva. So he will take the role of Vyasadeva.
His next,
in future. Not exactly in his next life, because he doesn't die, he's still alive. He's one of the 7 Chiranjeevis. There are 7 persons described in the Puranic history who are still alive. I don't know if I can remember them all, I can say some of them. Well, there's Ashvatthama, Parashuram, Dasya, Vibhishana, Hanuman. There's 5. Any other suggestion? Jambavan, is he one of them? Maybe, I don't know, I can't remember. I don't have a long-lasting memory. You want to speak of a long-lasting life. Well, Jambavan lived a long life, that's for sure, because he was there in Ram Lila and in Krishna Lila. He wasn't the only one. Well, I can't remember just now. Any other suggestions? Who the other 2 are?
6.
Did I mention 6? And there's 1 missing. Anyway, how is it possible that someone of such bad consciousness could become Vyasadeva in future? Well, why not? Anyone can become purified. And I don't know what millions of sinful activities I've committed in this life and in previous lives. Somehow, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, I'm making at least a show of chanting Hare Krishna. Whatever sinful activities one may perform, whatever it may be, it is not a permanent blot on the soul. It doesn't matter how sinful one has been in the past, one can become the greatest saint. One can become purified. That's the whole basis of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, this understanding. As it is said, every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. Ashvatthama, it said, he's wandering the earth incognito. And he's in Vrindavan, and he's allowed to enter there, and he's being purified by the contact with Vrindavan Dham. But he has no friends, no social life. He's like an outcast from human society. But as a result of contact with Vrindavan and suffering in that way, then he will eventually come to the status of Vyasadeva, says Vyasa. Okay, we're supposed to have kirtan, so...